Oh, hi. Welcome to the Innovations in History channel. This week's subject, Women in History. The first woman to really take charge in the women's rights movement was Abigail Adams, who sent letters to her husband asking him to remember the ladies, while he was at the First Continental Congress creating the new nation. Oddly enough, the result of the meeting was all men are created equal. John Adams did not remember his wife and later ridiculed her for her ignorant thoughts.
My dearest husband, I desire you would remember the ladies, and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such limited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to format a rebellion, and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation.
I was one of the first women to start the women's suffrage movement. She gave over 4,500 speeches in a 45-year time. Given her circumstances, she began to show that women did have a role in this country. That is what makes Susan B. Anthony our next woman.
I, Susan B. Anthony, dedicated my life to the cause, the women's suffrage movement. I was the first woman arrested, put on trial, and fined for voting on November 5th, 1872. I have given over 4,500 speeches over 45 years. I led the only non-violent revolution in our history. I also wrote the Susan B. Anthony Amendment in 1878, which later became the 19th Amendment, passed in 1920, giving us women the right to vote.
At this point, the women's right movement was at a complete standstill. That is until one daring woman flew into history by defying gender rules and doing what few women and men dared dream. That is what brings us now to Amelia Earhart.
I'm an aviator. In 1926, I became the first woman to cross the Atlantic. At that time, I was a passenger, but in 1934, I became the first woman to cross the Atlantic solo. In 1935, I was the first person to fly solo from Hawaii to the mainland. I also flew Lady Eleanor Roosevelt over Washington, D.C. I even attempted to fly around the world along the equator and capture the world's imagination. I did what no other man or woman had ever done before me, proving women could do whatever men can. I've set records and opened people's eyes. By doing what I have, women could finally be seen as competent individuals. For us, the sky is truly the limit.
Next up is Eleanor Roosevelt, First Lady to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. She took a more active role in government than any First Lady before her, bringing women into the spotlight in politics.
I'm Eleanor Roosevelt. I'm known as America's most active First Lady. I didn't have a good childhood, but I emerged as a strong woman. I had my own political career outside my husband's. I brought journalism to the women and encouraged them to exceed people's expectations of women. I was one of the first ladies to hold a press conference outside my husband's political affairs. Journalism for women wasn't popular. I supported other women in other activities as well. Amelia Earhart flew me over Washington, D.C. in 1935. I served as a delegate to the United Nations. I began to show that women could take a role as leaders in this country.
For years, the field of politics were only for men. The U.S. was governed entirely by people selected from only half its population. Solely an innovation in thought has allowed the country to see past barriers of sex and realize that women are just as qualified as men to lead the United States of America. Now here's Nancy Pelosi.
And I represent women's climb of the political ladder. Since the founding of the United States, women have struggled to find their voice in politics. The passing of the 19th Amendment was only the beginning. Women were now electing their leaders, and with this outstanding innovation, it was only a matter of time before women became the leaders. I am California's 8th District's representative in the House of Representatives. I was elected the House Minority Whip, assistant leader to the House Minority Leader in 2001. I was the first woman to hold that post. I was elected House Minority Leader for the Democratic Party in November 2002, becoming the first woman to lead a major political party. On January 4th, 2007, I was elected the first female Speaker of the House. In my January 4th speech, I spoke for women's achievements with these words. This is a historic moment for the Congress and for the women of this country. It is a moment for which we have waited for more than 200 years. Never losing faith, we waited through the many years of struggle to achieve our rights. But women weren't just waiting, women were working. Never losing faith, we worked to redeem the promise of America, that all men and women are created equal.
Women's equality was the greatest innovation in the history of the United States of America. Women have made some substantial marks on American history, and with this innovation, they are able to achieve much more and continue to work for a brighter future for all people, male and female.